Grandma has this dress.
No, neither.
I feel like Harry Potter. Too librarian. Too Bono?
No.
No. No. Big no.
Yes.
I look a little bit like a bumblebee. How long you been in these parts?
Bah, if sadness had a color. I bought this? Your Honor, I object.
No. This is so much like my dad.
That is the ticket.
Support for KQED Live comes from Buckley Rep.
Support for KQED comes from the Asian Art Museum. Visitors can step into an experience like no other at TeamLab Continuity and become part of a wondrous ecosystem of lush natural imagery that dynamically evolves around them. For more information and ticket reservations, visit asianart.org.
The disproportionate impact of
more than half of Black business owners.
And disproportionate.
Somehow we always find a way to rise.
To the blueprint builders, to the backbones of every block, for the curators of the culture, and for generations to follow. You might fall, but never fail. Keep rising, keep rising, keep rising. Apply for a business, marketing, and tech makeovers on us.
So glad I'm flying out of Oakland today. Let's count the reasons why. For one, flying locally reduces my carbon footprint. Plus, my airport supports over 17,000 jobs in the East Bay. And it makes sense. The more I fly from OAK, the more flights airlines will add out of OAK. All good.
No matter where you live in the Bay Area, there are many great reasons to pick OAK and fly the East Bay way.
What you do with that extra hour is up to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Parker. I am the Executive Director of Education here at KQED, and I am delighted to welcome you tonight to KQED Live, a new multi-platform live event series dedicated to bringing journalism to life on stage, amplifying local culture, and building community. KQED Live takes place here in our new theater called The Commons, located in our headquarters at San Francisco's Mission neighborhood. Before we get into tonight's program, I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement. Here at KQED headquarters, we are located on the occupied lands of the indigenous Ramaytush Ohlone people. In fact, all of us who reside in the Bay Area live and work on greater Ohlone lands. To honor both the land and the people who steward it for thousands of years, we must acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal of the original inhabitants from this territory. This, while we also honor and respect the many indigenous people still connected to this land. Please consider that as a part of a reflection on how we all find ourselves in this place at this moment. On behalf of all of KQED's Education Department, I want to welcome and thank you for joining us in person and on live stream. At KQED, we make media for youth, but we also have an entire department dedicated to providing young people with skills to make their own media and share their own stories and perspectives, and also providing a platform for these diverse youth voices to be heard. I'd like to offer some thanks for making tonight's program possible. First, to our seasoned sponsors, the Asian Art Museum, Buckley Rep, Comcast Business, and the Oakland International Airport. I want to offer deep gratitude for their commitment to supporting our mission of civic and cultural engagement in the Bay Area. During the pre-show, we had a mobile trivia quiz sponsored by Berkeley Repertory Theater. We have KQED water bottles for all the folks who answered the most questions correctly, and I have those winners now. They are Lindsay, Go Doves, and Alex. Congratulations. If I called your name, please raise your hand and we'll bring a prize to your seat. All right, gotcha, thank you very much. And we want to thank all of you for being among the first members of the public to bring this space to life. You can learn more about other upcoming events and purchase tickets at kqed.org/live. Lastly, a quick safety note. For those of us who are seated in the audience, let's be sure to take care of each other and remain fully masked throughout the evening. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage Miles Best, host of Above the Noise.
Thank you. Hello, good evening, everyone. Like Michelle said, my name is Miles Best, host of KQED's Above the Noise, and I'll be your MC for the evening. Tonight, we're going to showcase original media. Shameless self-promotion. Check it out. You see that? Tonight, we're going to be showcasing original media and origin stories of Bay Area youth media makers who participated in KQED's Youth Media Challenges last spring. Now, these classroom projects ask students to explore how they see themselves, share their view of the world, or envisioning a better future. Then they communicate their perspective through a video, a podcast, or a graphic. And finally, publish it on a public online showcase, and some of the pieces from that showcase may be selected for an on-air broadcast or featured in an event like this evening. So our theme for tonight is collaboration, and it breaks down in 3 ways. Now, we can all learn from each other in these unprecedented times, and leaning into collaboration more is good for all of us. Our guests tonight have shown us just how to do that. Now, some told personal stories, some endeavored to solve problems in their communities, but all applied themselves thoughtfully and creatively to getting their voices heard by a broad audience outside of, just their classrooms. But first, before we get started, I'd like to shout out our partners across the Bay and across the country, including participating teachers, schools, school districts, public media stations, educational partners, and our tech partners, WeVideo and Soundtrap in particular, for providing access, give it up for them, for providing access to media production software for students. One last note before we get into things, we will be taking questions at the end, so if anything comes up for you during our conversation tonight, make a mental note of that, and then we'll do our best to get to y'all at the end of the show. So to help us lead our conversation with some of our makers tonight, we have a San Francisco native, an educator, filmmaker, and our new youth media program director, Amanda Vigil. So please give it up for Amanda, everybody.
Thanks, Miles. I'm so excited to be joining the KQED community and you all tonight. Getting a chance to highlight a few of our youth creators. As the Youth Media Program Manager, I have the privilege of facilitating the Youth Takeover event in the spring, where students' stories take over KQED airways. Here at KQED, when we say youth media, we mean media made by youth and with youth. The pieces featured tonight by youth have shown us collaboration at work in 3 ways: across-distance learning, peer-to-peer, community-based, and intergenerational collaborations. We seek to build a really strong bridge between our KQED community and the communities of our takeover classrooms. Tonight's event officially kicks off a new year for youth media, culminating in the takeover event April 25th to the 29th. So mark your calendars, if you haven't already, for that week. We'd also like to do a shout out to John Henry High School. Are you here? Ooh, yes, there you go.
Yeah, shout out to y'all.
Make some noise, go Wildcats. We have so many amazing opportunities for you to be involved this year. If you'd like to join the conversation or want to get integrated with youth media at KQED, please do not hesitate to contact us. That's at youthmedia@kqed.org.
Yep, absolutely. And tonight, we're here to celebrate young people's voices that are sometimes missing from the most important conversations. So let's get started with the video that was submitted to our Engineering for Good Youth Media Challenge. So Grace Mirashan, Om Kokani, and Ruby Goodwin, they're 8th graders from Juan Cabrillo Middle School in Santa Clara, and they had an idea for one way to make life easier for kids in foster care. Let's check it out.
There are currently 450,000 children and teens in the United States foster care system. This is a system for children who are in dangerous family situations, and they go and live with temporary foster homes while their parents are recovering. However, while these kids are in the system, on average, they move through 7 foster homes. When these kids move, everything for them changes, from their workspace to their homes. We wanted to make something more consistent for them. Here's our solution.
Introducing Adiona, a work area that fits into a suitcase. Our solution allows foster kids to have their own personal portable workspace that they can take with them wherever they happen to go. Our product is designed for space and setup time efficiency. Inside is a desk that unfolds and can be set up for work atop your suitcase, a storage area so you can carry around your texts and notebooks, and section containers so you can organize your learning materials such as colored pencils and rulers.
There are
a few different ways to use Adiona, including setting it up on the floor near an outlet so you can charge a Chromebook while using it for online school, working while traveling with a desk over your lap, or sitting at a desk with a device beside you so that everything you need is right there. We hope that in the future, our invention can help foster kids get an equal opportunity to work on assignments and engage in their hobbies without having to worry about moving to new homes unprepared. No matter who they are or where they come from, our team believes that all children deserve a well-rounded supplemental education. And with our device, we pledge to do our part to make that happen.
Thank you for watching.
Like I said, we can all learn from each other tonight, and that was a perfect example of that. So give it up for Grace, and Ruby. Come on, everybody. Somebody.
Welcome. So for our first question tonight, what inspired you to focus on this theme?
Well, we'd been in a online school for a few months when we were brainstorming for this project because of COVID, you know, and we noticed one of the problems that we ourselves faced is when we had to do like labs in school or science, sometimes we didn't have all the materials that we needed and we had to get them sent to our house. It was a hassle, you know, and trying to get your own workspace. And Ruby has experience with foster families, and imagine if you're constantly moving around, it's hard to find your own workspace and somewhere where you can really focus and concentrate, and we wanted to address that problem.
Right. And I mean, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I was like, you know, I wanted to know if you guys could explain like your process. Like, how did it go from just being an idea to this real tangible thing?
Yeah, so as you said, we started with our idea, and because it was in distance learning and definitely in the pandemic, at that time we weren't able to meet in person and work on the project. So we decided to divvy up the responsibilities and basically ship it from house to house, working on separate segments of the project and then culminating it at the end. So we started with the prototype and the idea at Ruby's house, and after that was done, we brought it to Grace's house where we built the wooden hinged foldable desk, which really increased the size capacity of our desk, and also it made it sturdier. And then after that, we brought it to my house where we tested the prototype to make sure it worked, iterated, and made sure we got like some type of support system. And after that was, throughout the process, we, whenever we had a solution, we weren't isolated. We talked on Zoom and hashed out the solutions.
Awesome.
Were there any other sort of folks or community members or resources that you brought into your process?
Yeah, so I'd had several years of experience. My family was a foster family who took in some of those kids for short amounts of time. So I had seen problems that some of these kids were having, but I knew that I didn't have a full understanding of it. I had only seen maybe things that were happening in our area or just through people that we had met and taken care of. So I wanted to talk to someone with some more experience, someone who had seen more and had a different perspective than me. And I reached out to a social worker that my family worked with, and I asked her what she thought of it, how she thought it could be improved, what she thought was working really well that we should focus on. And I think her perspective on it was really helpful in just widening our understanding of our product and the problem.
That's great. And so for our last question tonight, it's for all of you. What did you gain from this experience?
Yeah, I'll start. So I guess one of the main things I gained from this experience was a unique perspective of looking at teamwork and collaborating with each other, as especially because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do what most people have when they think about teamwork, which is meeting in person and working on the project. So we had to challenge that perspective, and I guess it worked out very successful. So.
Yeah,
definitely.
It was interesting having to break down the project. Like, really, you'd think of something, a design process as something fluid, but we had to be able to set deadlines for ourselves. Like, we need to finish the idea and research after this specific date, and then so I can go and pick up the stuff from Ruby's house and work on it until this date so I can send it over to Ohm. That was really interesting. Usually it's just like you go with the flow, but...
Yeah, I guess I got something more general out of it. So for projects in general, instead of specifically ones during the pandemic, I think the main thing I gained from it was to learn that when you're trying to fix a problem, it should be a problem that you know about and that you care about. That way you know it's a problem that needs fixing, you know maybe how to start fixing it, and especially just that passion that you'll have for it when it's something that you care about will make your end result a lot better, and it'll make you enjoy the process a lot more than a problem that you don't understand or don't care about very much.
All true words. Thank you so much, Ruby, and Grace, for sharing your process with us and your project. We really appreciate it. Let's give it up for...
Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Great job. Great job. Great job.
Next up, we see what connecting with the community of workers looks like as an alternative path after high school with Jack Freeman and John Buckley, seniors at Woodside High School, on their project, Woodside Students Entering the Trades. Now, Jack and John collaborated on the Podcasting with the California Report based on KQED's popular radio show and podcast. Here's a clip.
While the majority of students at Woodside High School are choosing to continue their education, there are a growing number of students that are choosing to forgo that and enter the trades.
Students like myself are choosing to enter the trades instead of college because they simply do not like school and want to go into the workforce. Like many going through isolation due to the pandemic, I was on the hunt for a hobby. I baked, tried painting, I even tried to get into blacksmithing. However, nothing really stuck. That was until I found woodworking. I built my first workbench, and the satisfaction of board by board, cut by cut, making something that would last decades to come, honestly gave me peace and a sense of accomplishment during these difficult times. That is what got me to pursue the trades, specifically carpentry. I found that while the trades are not for all, they give me a chance to excel in areas and ways that I could not in academics.
I never thought that college was for me. I've considered going and taking a couple of classes at a community college, because for a while I wanted to be a mechanic, so I was going to take the mechanics class, and then my mom wanted me to take some business classes, but I've never liked school. I've never done great in school, and I've never seen the appeal of paying so much money for something that I wasn't going to enjoy.
Other students, like Will Pilati, who wants to be a mechanic, find the trades an interesting and viable career choice.
I just find it incredibly interesting. I have a truck of my own, and it's been really fun trying to figure out what's wrong with it and trying to fix it, and little things here and there.
Like myself, Will Pilati has made the snap decision very recently to go into the trades.
Welcome, Jack and John.
Please welcome to the stage Jack Freeman and John Buckley, everyone. Yeah.
So your first question is, when you started this project, what was your initial idea?
So our initial idea was to compare and contrast the thinking of people who are going to college like myself and people who are going into the trades like John. And when we were originally writing the idea, I really liked the idea and I thought it worked well, but in the back of my mind, since I had done a KQED project before, and I think I told John this when we were writing it, I said, when we go in and pitch, they're going to say, it needs more John. We need more John. And lo and behold, we went in there and they were like, we love John's story. We need more John. And so we kind of focused from there to students who are entering the trades, and he had a lot of friends who were going into the trades already. So that's how we got to our main idea of Woodside students entering the trades.
And I mean, when I heard this story, I was like, this speaks to me, because I was not the best student in high school at all, by far, you know what I mean? But also I did still go to college and, was kind of just in that process as well. So I was wondering, what role did each of y'all play in this project? Because I feel like I see both sides of the coin. So what role did each of y'all play?
Well, thank you, Jack. That was quite the introduction. I was the people person, I guess. I like Jack mentioned, a lot of my friends are going into the trades. And so I was able to set up interviews and just get to talking to people.
Yeah, and I was more of the technical person. I had just completed, or I was in my third year of taking a journalism class, my second year of taking a film class. And so I just kind of helped guide John to where he had the questions to get the answers that we wanted to form the narrative around his story. And so we just kind of leaned upon each other, where he could get me the interview and then I could help him like operate it properly. And then he would get the interview back to me and I could edit it and throw it together. And we just kind of bounced our ideas and things like that off each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We really love how you both are leaning to your strengths, but also working so closely together. And as a final question tonight, what do you think is important from your experience in this project for young people to know?
I think it is important to know that, while yes, I would love to encourage everyone to go in the trades, it is not for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It takes a certain character, and but I think it is important to explore all your options and to just even see if it's something that you would like to do, and maybe college isn't.
Yeah, and it helped me learn another point of view. Ever since I was little, it was people told me to go to college, and so I think there were certain misconceptions that I had learned about people going into the trades, and through not only just working with John through this whole process, but meeting other people who were going to do that and go into the trades really helped open my perspective on the world, and see that they work really hard, sometimes harder than I do. And so that was really eye-opening and a really great experience.
Awesome. We want to thank you both for sharing your stories and your process tonight. Give it up for Jack and John.
Thank you so much. Next up is someone that I have known for years, actually. Emiliano and I used to work together a few years back at YR Media in downtown Oakland, and now we work together here at KQED, where they are the other half of the youth media team. So Emiliano is a great example of what we're working towards here. They are a young adult creator who exemplifies the impact of this work. So everybody give it up for Emiliano.
My name is Emiliana Villa, and I am the new youth media specialist at KQED. I'm really excited to be in this position because I actually got my start in journalism, not too differently from the students that we're highlighting tonight. So it was through youth
Did you
media
want this mic, Emiliana?
It was through youth media pieces like these that I found my start in journalism. As Miles shared, I started writing with YR Media, formerly Youth Radio in Oakland, and I very quickly fell in love with creating projects for radio in this style. I love the audio storytelling that can fully immerse the listener into the world of your piece. Layering audio clips, getting street sounds, adding music. I was obsessed with spending hours meticulously creating a project. And I also love the interview process. So asking all the most obvious questions so you can get every single detail. So when I was in high school, I worked on a story about my family that actually ended up going to broadcast on KQED and went on the California Report. So let's show a bit of that piece.
On today's show, we'll be hearing from a lot of young Latinos in California who have dreams like Rosie, but who have to struggle to reach them, like Emiliano Villa. He's from Oakland, and his story shows how even within some families, there can be economic disparities. Emiliano's a reporter with Youth Radio, and he says growing up, things were very different for him than they were for his sister.
My sister, Azucena Rosilla, is 16 years older than I am. But the difference between us goes way beyond years. Back when she was my age,
we were able to get a house. Each of us had our room. Our parents would always buy us like stuff for Christmas and our birthdays.
By the time I was old enough to remember things like birthday presents, the recession hit. My family's home renovation business took a nosedive, and it hasn't recovered. So, money-wise, my adolescence is completely different from my sister's.
They kind of had no choice but to sort of like scale down on the house. They had to move back to a smaller place. They had to go back to you guys sharing rooms. they had to cut back on expenses.
Back when my sister had an after-school job, she kept all the money for herself. I have to use my paycheck to help with groceries and rent.
Hola, hijo.
That's my mom, Gabriela Solorzano. She's much more comfortable speaking in Spanish.
Todo el negocio se fue para abajo.
My mom's saying after our
$2,000
family's
o
business went under, we went from making $2,000 a week to $300 a week, if that. So unlike my sister, when I start college next year, I'll be on my own covering tuition.
This causes a lot of tension within families.
Dalton Conley is a sociology professor at Princeton University.
Emiliano, what inspired you to make this piece?
So, this piece actually started out as a perspective. So just a simple, short essay about some of my thoughts at the time when I wrote it. So I was a senior in high school. And so I was graduating soon and coming to terms with understanding that I'd have to work to put myself through college because of my situation. And I knew that I wasn't the only person going through this because I was at school and me and my whole friend group, we were all working after school jobs to save up for college. And so I knew that it was something that the rest of my friends and other young people like me were going through. So when I wrote that piece, I really wanted to speak to other young people like me.
And I'm a process kind of guy, so I like seeing how things kind of just become what they are. So can you kind of just walk us through what that was like for you from going from A to Z?
Yeah. So when I first wrote it, it started as the first draft, which was just about me. But as I continued to work on it, I realized that I wanted to hear some more like expert opinions. And so that's when I reached out to other people. But it wasn't until I spoke to my family, I interviewed my mom and my sister. And I think that's what really gave it that extra impact. And it was that intergenerational aspect that really made the piece unique. And so I think all those voices that evolved into the final piece are really what took it to the next level. And that's what went to broadcast.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, as a young adult now, what have you gained from that experience looking back at listening to your work as a young person?
So from that experience, I actually realized that journalism was something that I wanted to go into head on because it was the first time that I ever worked on a big project like that. It went to public radio. I was working hands-on like a producer. I was working with the KQED producers, inputting all of their edits, making the piece perfect on my own. And so it was kind of hard, but it was also really satisfying and really kind of solidified my choice and made me realize that's what I wanted to go into. And so I actually kept going with youth media, and now I'm here.
And we are so glad that you are. You know, we want to thank you again so much for sharing this piece and being vulnerable with us tonight. And Miles and I are going to take a quick break, so you got this, right?
You got this.
So, just like I did, our next speaker also turned to her family for inspiration for her piece. So in her submission for our Podcasting with the California Report Youth Media Challenge, Clara Chu, a junior at Woodside High School, reflected on her own experiences and elevated them with the help of her family. She used her family's extensive photo archive, which complemented her story, and she turned in not just as an audio piece, but as a video. And these conversations that she had with her family are a great example of the intergenerational collaboration and tie back to the theme that we want to highlight tonight. So let's hear some of her piece.
Historically, it's the minority population that have had to do the hard work of assimilating to the values of the majority.
Still, cultural divides inhibit many from seeing beyond this perpetual foreigner stereotype, which is only reinforced by the media.
I think the root cause of xenophobia and racism towards Asians and Asian Americans is a great poverty and failure of the imagination. By that, I mean high art, popular art, media, movies, advertisements, the fashion industry, the list goes on.
From the model minority standard to the dragon lady trope, these portrayals have formed a limited view of Asian Americans.
They have a very thick accent. They are subservient, obsequious, inscrutable. They all live in Chinatown, or they're extras in the background.
During the pandemic, former President Trump's referral to COVID-19 as the China virus has only increased the animosity toward all Asian Americans, not just those of Chinese descent. Oftentimes, the term Chinese lumps together many ethnic groups with the assumption that all Asians look alike.
The China virus. Chinese virus. The Chinese virus. Kung flu.
Context matters. Historically, there's been a stereotype of Asians being dirty, vermin-like, subhuman. So when you throw in the terms and connect them, China with virus is not a descriptor anymore. It becomes a very loaded and racially charged term.
Amazing work by Clara. Before we go on into some questions, she's actually opted to say a few words. So, Clara, take it away.
Thank you. When my film teacher, Miss Sidley, told me about the KQED Youth Challenge, I was excited for the opportunity to share my voice and research a subject that I was passionate about. Originally, I wanted to address the rise of Asian American hate during the pandemic, but as I wrote down my video, I realized that this was also an opportunity to discuss issues that I experienced far before the start of COVID-19. I wanted to explore racism against Asian Americans as a whole, from the struggles of being American enough to more minor feelings of frustration. But I soon realized that I couldn't accomplish this by myself. I needed help from someone who is more knowledgeable in the subject, which is why I turned to my dad. Interviewing him exposed me to more of the nuances within racism. When we think of the word racism, we think of opposites. We think of black and white, we think of good and evil, privilege and oppression, but in reality, many factors play into racial discrimination. Talking with my dad opened up this conversation surrounding racism for me, so with this video, I hope to invite others to join the conversation as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Clara. So, for your first question, when did you decide to focus on your family for this project?
Well, I knew I wanted to focus on my family from the moment I found my topic. Racism is really a generational issue, and I think that a large part of someone's racial identity is influenced by the experiences of their relatives. So on a more personal level, I wanted to incorporate my family story in order to have a better understanding of their experiences. And through that, I hope to have a better understanding of my own heritage.
Definitely, thank you. And what was your process of putting together this project?
Well, first I wanted to interview my dad. I think including his voice in the video was really important to me. And so I wanted to format my video in a way that highlighted what he had to say. Going into the video, I didn't really have a plan for what I wanted to cover. So when I interviewed him, I just asked more general questions. So after that, I transcribed the interview, and then I was able to combine my dad's ideas with my own commentary to create a script. And that sort of became the basis of my video.
Awesome. And what about the process of putting together the video, taking from your family's archive? What was that like?
Well, the video editing software I used crashed a lot, so the process was really slow. But putting together the video itself was pretty fun. It was just satisfying seeing this idea I'd had in my head for so long actually start to take shape. And I was also able to create multiple drafts that I sent out to my dad and my sister to receive feedback. So my finalized video was really able to combine everyone's input.
That's awesome. There was so much family involvement there, so that's great to hear. And what does it mean to you to be able to share stories like these outside of school and the classroom? And what message that you want to send to the listeners with this?
Yeah, I think hearing stories like these, especially outside of the classroom, is incredibly important. At least within the school curriculum, there's not much discussion about the modern day experiences of Asians or Asian Americans. the standard Asian curriculum is pretty much limited to immigration, the railroads, the internment camps. So it's almost as if Asian American history just ends after World War II. And before this video, I'd honestly never really had this conversation about current issues that Asian Americans face. So one message I hope to send is that somebody's racial identity does not begin or end in a school textbook. I think this Youth Media Challenge was a good example where I was given the liberty to research and discuss what was important to me. And likewise, I think racial identity should follow the same process of reflection. And I think that if we want to make terms in progress of racism, we can't limit ourselves to other people's stereotypes. We need to learn to define ourselves on our own terms.
Wow, thank you so much, Clara. So I wanted to take this time to actually highlight that Clara is a new member of the KQED Youth Advisory Board, which is here. So the Youth Advisory Board, or the YAB for short, works with KQED producers to provide input on all of our youth media content, particularly Above the Noise, hosted by Miles over there. So they are a great, huge asset to the youth media team and the whole KQED company. So thank you so much, Clara. I'd like to take this time to welcome Miles back to the stage.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wanted to thank all the participants for participating and sharing their process and their perspectives with us this evening. I'd like to welcome everybody back onto the stage. All the guests, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Papa squat, Papa squat. Now we're at the part of our show where y'all get to ask questions. So Ryan is somewhere, and they're going to be going around with a mic. So if anything came up for you, I want you to be brainstorming, thinking about what those questions were. Raise your hand. Ryan will come to you, ask the question. These wonderful people will answer it for you. And while that's happening, I wanted to also, while you're thinking about that, remind you all that youth media challenges are year-round. This year we have 7 to choose from. Ta-da! And if you're a student, ask your teachers to sign up. And teachers, you can go to our website and get the curriculum, support, and everything you need to do the challenge. So, any questions? Let's get it going. Questions? If not, I have a question for them. But do y'all have a question? I'd rather y'all ask my question than. There we go.
I'd love to see. Can you hear me? I'd love to see the desk that you made get distributed somehow, or put in the hands of some foster kids. Is there a plan for that?
Yeah, I guess we would to start on the plan to distributing our prototype. We would start with trying to customize and making it less more cost efficient for the suitcase, as the suitcase wasn't. It was probably a regular suitcase, which we built out the prototype out of. So we might want to change that. Also, maybe finding opportunities to get the materials as when you start making more. Because we only have one prototype. When you start making more than one, you start to take into account more of a materials list, and you have a set of items you want to include, right? So we would have that. You guys.
Yeah, and also just even on top of producing a lot of them, actually distributing that for our target audience could be difficult and present its own challenges, because we have our target audience is a group of kids who move around a lot. A lot of times they don't necessarily have the resources to buy something expensive. And, even just the base suitcases that we use cost quite a bit of money if you want a good quality one. So being able to actually get our solution to people who are facing the problem is its own thing that would require a lot of thought. And I think for this project, we were kind of thinking about how to fix the problem in theory instead of actually practically. So it would definitely take more thought to figure out how to produce and distribute it.
If in the future we do decide to continue on with this project and think about distributing it, we are going to spend some more time on the design. Whenever you finish a project, people always ask, if you had more time, what would you do? we do those things.
For sure. Any questions? Oh, we got a couple over here.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Chad. I'm here on behalf of Soundtrap and Spotify, and I first want to say, on behalf of our company, thank you for doing what you did tonight. This is absolutely fantastic. So, like, props to all of you. You all talked tonight a lot about your process for the things that you created, but I'm curious, what were some of the most important things you learned from this experience? Maybe from your group mates or from the family you interviewed?
Yeah, so like we mentioned earlier, Jack was more of the technical one, but he definitely just didn't take all the work on himself. He included me in the editing process and in whatnot, so I got to learn as well. So it was a really great experience for both of us. I got to learn some new skills.
Yeah, I'd say that, the best part and the most thing I learned was just from interacting with people. You know, since I've worked really hard in school, you know, I've always focused on college, and to hear another perspective from that really helped me out a lot, and just learning how those people think and work, because I've never been one to make things with my hands, and that's all they want to do with their life. And so it's like, and so it was just a brand new perspective for me, and I learned so much from just interacting with them and talking to them about life and everything like that.
I think the most important thing I learned was just listening to my family. I learned like so many stories from them that made me realize how current of an issue this is. I think one example was my grandfather, who was born in San Francisco, but even though he was a citizen, he was still banned from working for the government because he was Asian. And all of that happened in his lifetime. Like, the bill was only reversed in the 1950s or so. So it made me realize how recent this issue was as well.
Sure. So, so I'd say probably one of the things I learned was patience. And you guys were a really great group. I really appreciated having you guys in my group. But we were going through a pandemic as middle schoolers, which it was a really hard thing. It was probably the hardest thing that we had experienced in our lives so far. So realizing if someone needed a little bit longer to do something, that was okay. If they had a scheduling thing where they had to do something else first, that was okay. If someone didn't feel like doing something because they were having a really emotionally difficult day, we were in a pandemic, like that was okay. So learning to work with each other through a really hard time, I think that was good practice and a good thing to go through with people that I trusted.
Design-wise, we actually did some research on products that already existed, like along the lines, and nothing really is like similar to our project that already exists, especially targeted to the audience that we were targeting. But I feel like one of the main things that I sort of learned like was difficult was trying to figure out how the desk would fold and all the logistics while it's at one person's house and you've got a tiny computer screen in front of you with like two people staring and you're trying to like literally hold it up in front of them like, can you guys see this? It doesn't fall this way. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? So that was an interesting learning experience.
Yeah, I guess what I learned was more about the topic itself, as I learned a lot more about foster care and foster kids and how they suffer from, or they don't really suffer, but they face daily problems that we would usually overlook because we have certain capabilities and we're allowed to do stuff that they wouldn't be able to do. And so I learned a lot more. As you saw in the video, there were like a lot of statistics that normally you'd overlook, but when you actually like take time to think about it, you're like, wow, or like 400,000 kids have to move around in the foster care system. So I guess you learn a lot about what they're facing, and it really opened my eyes to that issue.
Thank y'all for that. I feel like I saw another hand.
Hi, I teach 8th grade English in the city. As a mom, I have to say I'm so proud of every single one of you. But My question is for each one of you, why is it important to you that that students and teenagers get their voices out there to a broader audience? Because that's really what you're doing.
Yeah, I can start. So I guess one major reason why it's really important is because we're the new generation, right? We have certain opinions that we don't really go and talk on shows. Usually you see adults talking on shows. So you see their opinions of what we think is happening, but you don't really see that many people talk, that many kids talking on shows. So it's really important for us as kids to find problems in our communities that only us would be able to see, as problems in our school, problems with our friends, that they would open up to us and not to their adults. And so it's really important as we have a different type of perspective, and giving that perspective can maybe change a few people's minds and help others.
I feel like Gen Z, like us, I'm pretty sure, has a very different view of society than older generations. And you see a lot of their voices on social media apps. I know I go on Instagram and TikTok every day and I see plenty of opinions, but it's nice to see them in a more professional environment, I guess.
Yeah, so I think probably the most important part of having younger voices in media is understanding between adults and teenagers and kids, because I know personally I've told my parents some things that surprise them about what teenagers do. They're like, what? That wasn't a thing when I was a kid. Or they've told me things about the adult world, and I'm like, that happens in the adult world? Right. And it's I think so much of the time the conflict between teenagers and adults is from lack of understanding, right? Teenagers don't understand that this particular thing has to change when they get older in order to get a job. And parents might not understand what certain, teenage cultural things are. So I think having younger voices in media to kind of help adults see a younger perspective is just important in terms of understanding and working together to solve problems, I guess.
I also think that it's important for people to see somebody that they can identify with. As Ruby and Ohm said, sometimes it's hard for youth to identify with an older audience. So I think having a youth perspective will also encourage more youth to become more involved in their community. And I think also, if we're forced to speak on these issues, then we're also forced to learn about them, and we're forced to become more educated and more aware.
Yeah, what you guys all just said was great. I can't put it any better than that, but I'll try. What they have said before, it's important that we get our voices out, because I think that our opinion should matter. On all issues, because eventually we're gonna have to be running the show, and so it's important that we get our voices heard and get out there, and get ahead of that, so that when the time comes that it's time for us to step up and make big decisions, we're not left uneducated or just we don't know what we're doing because we've never done it before. Right. I think that's all very important.
I think events like these are incredibly important because, like they mentioned, we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have all that where young people share their ideas, and it becomes like an echo chamber. And the same goes for older media as well. So with events like these, it gives us a chance to directly talk to the adults, so they don't have to weed through all of the just nonsense of social media. So it brings it into a nice cohesive form, and I think that's what I really like about this.
We're so grateful that you realize some of it's nonsense.
That's part of the reason why I'm on there, but
for sure. The nonsense is half the fun. For sure. Do I see any more questions in the crowd? Oh, for sure.
I think this question is for all of you guys. Like Clara said, her editing software would always crash. What would be the best editing software you would use, and what are some tips since some of us are starting?
Well, I've only really had experience with one editing software, which is Adobe Premiere Pro, since my school provides that. I think my teacher just showed us like the basics of how to use it, but I found a lot of like good YouTube tutorials online, so I would start there.
Yeah, I also learned Premiere Pro, and it's really well done. If your school can get it to you for free, that's the best part. But I would honestly just say YouTube is probably the best way to learn. That's how I learned some of the more complicated stuff. But if you're going to do something basic, then I would say any free software that you can find and use, it's going to have the basic features, and you can learn more from there.
Yeah, I guess I've had a lot of research on this for like the past 2 years, probably because as a kid, I wanted to start a YouTube channel because it was one of like he has a YouTube channel. It's pretty cool thing. You see people, right? And so I researched a lot. There's like because I was from home, I was looking at the free options. So the free options are like Filmora, Hit Film because I'm on Windows, and well for our project we used WeVideo. It's pretty good. It was provided by our school too, but there is a free version, and the good thing about it is you're allowed to collaborate with others. So we were able to collaborate real time with each other. So I guess that's one of the better aspects. So definitely get it if your school provides.
The one thing about WeVideo is you can't actually work all on at the same time. So only one person. You can now, but
Before.
when we were doing it, one person would log on and put in their clips, and then the next person, like they had to log off before the next person could put their things in. Yeah, it's a great system.
Okay, the last plug for WeVideos, you can also work on your cell phone and on the web at the same time. Okay, that's it.
Oh yeah, if you record the clips on your phone, you put them in on your phone into WeVideo, and then you like edit them on your computer.
Yes,
Yeah.
That was helpful.
That's right, that's right.
Right. And I mean, I guess to add to that, if you do have access to Adobe Premiere, but you need like more structure than YouTube, I have like a Lynda account, and you can get that free through the library. So yeah, Lynda is like more structured. They have like classes and things like that. And if you have I think it's still San Francisco Library in Oakland, I think that you can for sure get it for free. So I would do that because I need someone to kind of tell me like from A to Z how something works. So that worked for me. But that's just me. Any more questions? Oh, more hands. Perfect. I love this.
Hi. This question goes out to all of you guys. I think this question is important because since our class is working on like, videos with KQED, and our class are like we're choosing topics a lot of the times. I feel like when you're in the process of getting all the interviews and doing all the research and getting all the information right, have you ever felt like having second thoughts on the topic that you ever chose?
Yes, that is a very big fear because you sometimes just get in your own head and you can overthink something that just really doesn't need to be overthought at all. But it's just about either just going away and getting a fresh set of eyes, or having someone else talk you through it and just be like, no, this is right. Because I mean, that was a big part of our project too, because there were ideas where I thought they were like, no, this is trash, but Jack like would either take them and maybe they were trash, but through editing and whatnot, he made it so I looked at it and was like, oh, okay, I like that. So that's what I found helpful.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's going to be times when you're working on a project, especially if you put a lot of time into it, that you're going to have second thoughts just about everything that you do. And it's important to remember that you did those things for a reason the first time you did them, and you chose this topic for a reason, and it was clearly important to you. Yes. And so you just kind of got to get back into that mindset and remember, like, why did I make this? Like, why did I do this? And maybe once you get back in that mindset, you'll be like, oh yeah, because this was really important to me, and I thought it was important to share it.
Yeah, and going off of what you said, like a lot of times you've put so much like work and effort into this, you don't just want to quit. I know like a lot of times I've gotten stuck on something, I just like delete the whole thing. But I've learned to just sort of like go with my project so far. And if I get stuck anywhere, then don't completely redo it. But what I've done is like I take my work and I copy and paste it, and then I just cut it up from there. So I've kind of like funneled down everything I do into like multiple edits, and that's totally helped me.
Yeah, so I've had to do a lot of projects for various things, and I have not enjoyed all of them as much as I enjoyed this one for various reasons. So I think sometimes it does feel really discouraging because you have a project and you either can't find the solution that you want or something about it technically is going badly, and it's super frustrating. But I think one of the things I've learned from that is perseverance, and definitely like most of the time if you stick with it, if your idea was good and you work hard on it, it's going to turn out fine. And maybe it wasn't the most enjoyable thing you've ever done, but you'll get through it and get something that you're proud of at the end.
For sure.
I'm going to be honest, with this specific project, I didn't really feel like we were second guessing the idea, but we did find this project through a program that we all are/were in, and it gives us access to many like engineering and STEM projects pretty much, and it doesn't stop. It's you have to come up with a problem, and then you come up with a solution, and then something goes wrong, or you can't get the materials you want, or Synopsis Science Fair doesn't accept water or some things, and you have to change your project. It doesn't end. Just try to get something that you're actually interested in, otherwise you'll get discouraged, and you'll end up with something that is not as good as you wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when you get discouraged like midway through a project, it could be like for various reasons. So if you get discouraged because of like a lack of evidence, I just try to exhaust all your options, your resources, ask families, friends, anything, because you have that idea you really want to do. You just don't have, like currently you don't have the evidence to maybe back up your claim and make it a strong claim. If you're having like second doubts on the idea itself, I guess, as they've been saying, just stick with it. That's the most important thing. Yeah, that's
sure.
all I have to say.
I agree with all of that, 110%. Any more questions? Do I see any more hands? Perfect. We got one right over there, Ryan, for sure. Pass the mic, pass the mic.
Hi, my name is Hermione. My question to you guys is, with the research process, how do you guys find sources that are credible and that fit right with your guys' project?
Yeah, I can start. So a very great resource, Hermione, right, is Google Scholar. So instead of going on Google and searching up something, you could get various websites. If you go on Google Scholar, you get reputed sources like Harvard. I mean, depending on your idea or topic, it could be like Harvard Business Review, other like known sources. Other than that, I'd say because you guys are in a class, check with your teacher. Your teacher knows, they have experience with citing. They do it probably a lot with like your slides and stuff. They want to make sure you guys get that the right source. So make sure like don't skimp on your sources. That's one of your important parts of your project, getting the evidence. So make sure you get it from like for getting from a right source. I definitely recommend Google Scholar. So yeah.
Whoever, you don't all have to if you got, you know.
Oh,
is that,
okay, that's a great answer. Google Scholar.
You got something?
He nailed it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right.
There you go. Do I see any more questions in the crowd? Oh, for sure, in the white Levi hoodie.
Often we only see the end product and not the process. So what hardships did you guys go through with this project, and how did you overcome it, and did you guys learn anything from it? And then going back to the main topic, did you work through it together, or was it a solo thing?
There were some, even after the final product, that we noticed, like we forgot to introduce our interviewees, the first one at least.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a egg on our face moment. But for the most part, it's just a matter of, and like certain other technical things, like for my voiceover, I wish I would have held the microphone a lot farther away from my mouth. But hey, that's I mean, I made it here, so I guess I can't complain. But I think it's more of little small stuff. We never really had any large hurdles to go over. Everything was a pretty smooth sail, so we got pretty lucky.
Yeah, for sure. Everything was pretty smooth sailing, for us at least, just because, you know, we had worked together before and we've been friends for a little bit, so it wasn't like we had to really get to know each other. We kind of knew from the jump what we wanted to do. And then once we got in that mode, the hardest part for us was finding interviews during COVID, because that was really difficult. But luckily, he knew people. If I was assigned this project, it would have been very short. So, once we got past that, it was smooth sailing. We were able to do really well.
Yeah, I think the same thing for me. I could only interview my dad since I was in lockdown as well. So if I did like go back and redo parts of my project, I would definitely interview a lot more people to get a lot more perspectives. But for challenges, I think it was mostly just technological for me, just like my software crashing or like my computer freezing up a lot. There's not really like a solution for that except getting better Wi-Fi, I guess. But I did ask my family a lot for help to make sure I wasn't going off on some weird path. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd say when you meet challenges, lean on the people that you're working with for sure, because sometimes you might not be able to do something, or for various reasons. If you have a team, they're there for a reason, and it's really helpful to have other people with you who have different skill sets, different abilities, everything like that. It's really nice to have people to lean on. So if you're encountering a problem, get your teammates' opinion, maybe get your family's opinion, and work with others to get over that problem and that hurdle as easily as possible.
This one's kind of specific. We actually didn't, other than the suitcase part itself, we didn't buy most of our materials, especially the desk part. We had to send the measurements of what specific materials, like the wood block needs to be like, I don't know, 10 inches or like 11 and a half or something. And we sent that into our school, and they'd like laser cut it for us there and then bring it to us so we could use it. And we only had one chance at that. And also we were all in different houses. Like the suitcase was at Ruby's house, but I was the one like sending in the order for what materials we needed. So she had to like measure it like with me on FaceTime. That was kind of difficult to make sure that everything sort of fit together in the end. And one other thing that was kind of difficult about the design of the desk, it has to fold outwards, but if you fold it this way, then it's not like sturdy enough, or it collapses inward, and we had to iterate a lot. And the thing I said about like holding something up in front of a computer with everyone watching, I actually did do that. I had like Post-it notes, and I had the paper, and I was like, okay, these are the 3 sheets, but they're gonna be like half an inch thick, and the screws we have are like this thick, so I need to fold it this way, and it was a big thing, but we pretty much figured it out. It did take a lot of reiteration and stuff, though.
It definitely worked.
Yeah. So as she said, when you have a problem, they said like meet with like your family, friends to talk about it, get a new perspective on the problem, so that it might like give you an idea or a solution to solve the problem, or you can just iterate through the problem. So like our laser cutting measurements or whatever problem you have in your project, it's not working the first time, try to make some adjustments, see if they work, see how it's affecting like the end result, and change it based on that. It's constant like work, or constant designing, going back to the drawing board, and yeah, testing. So.
And I think what's really interesting is that like everything that y'all just said like really encapsulates the theme of the night, which has been collaboration. You know what I'm saying? It's always going back to each other. They keep talking about going back to each other, going to their peers, going to their friends, going to their family. And I just wanted y'all to kind of think about that as we kind of end the night. You know what I mean? It's just this whole thing is about collaboration and working with, you know, the people next to you and the people around you, and using your network to the best of your advantage.
Regardless of age.
Regardless of age. So with that said, one more round of applause for our guests. Also, everybody say, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Awesome. And with that said, you know, have a good night, everybody. Thank you all for coming, and that's our show.